I'm going to be honest with you guys right up front. For years, the Jeffrey Epstein story has never quite sat right with me. I always felt that there was something that stank a little bit. It just didn't feel right. The official version is he died alone in his cell. I don't think that I'm alone in thinking that sounds a little suspect. With the most thorough investigation ever done into his death, I decided I was going to read as much of it as I could and try to look into it as much as I could. Every page I came across made me wonder that much more, and what I found was stranger than I expected. Every time I thought I had figured it out, it flipped again. This is Jared, and this is the view from here. Stay with me for this one. So first, let's be fair about the suspicion. The suspicion has merit. This case was so big nationally, and then all of a sudden, this person showed up dead in his jail cell. The night Epstein died, the guards were assigned to watch didn't do their rounds for hours. The cameras, nearly half the system wasn't recording on the night of his death. However, there was an orange shape moving towards his cell later in the night, but nobody could fully explain this. He was alone in his cell, which had explicit orders to never be alone in his cell. This person was on suicide watch in a prison that, for all intents and purposes, seemed to be falling apart. Some of the things that I found interesting or strange was his autopsy seemed to show that he had broken bones in his neck, which could happen. It could happen in a suicide. It could happen in a hanging. This is also common in the dropping version of a hanging. However, the pathologist hired by his own family said that it leaned towards homicide. The evidence pointed towards homicide. So let's think about this a little bit further. Let's put yourself there. The most watched prisoner in the United States, whose connections ran from presidents, billionaires, the wealthy, the most elite people in the world, died alone, cameras down, guards asleep. If your gut said that's not a coincidence, this is how I felt reading about it and trying to study up more about it. Here's where the news reporting starts to turn things over, and it's one piece at a time. The cameras, that's the big one, and I think that's the big one for everybody. We all assume that in a prison, there's going to be cameras everywhere. They're running 24 hours a day. The goal is to, for sure, keep the prisoners safe, but just to see and manage everything happening in the prison. You have the most famous prisoner in the country is at this prison, and they don't realize quickly that the cameras are down. Somebody is not watching and having oversight to see that these cameras are no longer working. Turns out it was documented a week before he died that the cameras have been failing. Suspicious, yes, but it can happen. Should it be happening with the most watched person in the country? No, it shouldn't be. This is the person that had all the answers to the questions that the American public is trying to figure out now. And he's gone, and there's nothing we could do to get that back. And we're taking educated guesses on what exactly happened. We have to see how suspicious the circumstances surrounding the death are. This entire facility was breaking down, and from the prisoners to the prison guards, everybody said this was a threat to everybody. Everybody in the prison. Obviously, prison is not a safe place. And if you have no way of managing the people or keeping track of the people other than by your own eyes, by doing rounds, you're asking for something to happen. Cameras are essential. This should have been something that was not overlooked. And it sounds like it was overlooked for a purpose. And that's what keeps this, let's call it a conspiracy theory, going. This crime touches the lives of so many people and so many extremely wealthy people. The people that control not just the country, but the world have connections to this man. And that does not sit right for me. The fact that the prison closed 2 years after his death shows that what kind of shape it was truly in. The orange shape on the staircase. Somebody went up there. It's hard to tell. As they say, it's hard to tell. I wish there was cameras further back so you could just track whoever this person was carrying whatever they were carrying. But there's no evidence that it could just be a guard simply taking linens up there to go change them out, to go check on him. The guards are asleep and they miss the rounds. In situations like this, again, I'm going to keep repeating myself. The most important and watched prisoner in the country. The people at the prison were so inept. The guards are asleep and missing their rounds. Is this happening all over prisons in America? Is this the kind of watch that these people are under? They committed a crime. But if you're not going to have anybody watch to help take care of the prisoners, to make sure there's not more violence in there, to make sure that they even care about what's happening, how do we expect this to reform anybody? And with such a high profile character, with the person that has connections to some of the most powerful people on the planet, and the guards are asleep and missing their rounds. None of this sits right. Later, as we can read about in this, they were charged for falsifying records. This wasn't a plot. It was a jail running on 16 to 24-hour shifts, understaffed for years. The union warned that there would be something that would happen. Somebody will die under these circumstances. You cannot expect people to work these hours in such a dangerous, high stress environment and have something not go wrong. This is inevitable. It just happened to go wrong with a person that we needed that information from. This entire case should be talked about. It should be investigated further. And it is not something that we should just let go. What was happening down on his island, the connections that he had to these people, the blackmail, the rich, the wealthy, the young age of people. This is something we cannot overlook as society. If we let them get away with it, if we let the rich and powerful get away with it, because they are rich and powerful, because they do have the control of governments and they do have the control of the masses, does not mean that they are above the law. This was negligence, catastrophic, indefensible negligence. But negligence is different than murder. The neck and the broken bones is physical evidence of the hard part. This doesn't sit quite right with me, but it's also easy to understand it in a hanging, right? A lot of the world that we are living in now is optics, right? How does it look? The more I read into this, Epstein's family pathologist is one that strikes me a little bit different. He said that the fractures in his neck point more towards strangulation than suicide. The doctor who actually did the autopsy pointed to the opposite. So we're stuck right here in the middle. If an independent person, right, supposedly independent, says that this is the cause of death, and then a family pathologist says, well, I think this is the cause of death, we are already at an impasse. And with our justice system, the way it's been for years, and we go back and forth with this evidence and that evidence, who do we trust? The distrust for the system is so deep, it makes people question everything. If you want to look into more of distrust of the American justice system, I would encourage you guys to look into an easy one would be the O.J. Simpson trial. Watch it, understand it, and see why this was such a big deal. What led to the O.J. Simpson trial? What happened before that? I would encourage people to also look up and understand Rodney King and the LA riots. The bones aren't going to settle this one way or the other. This is a man in his 60s. This is a person trying to commit suicide. It could have been in a hanging situation, that jumping off, it could have easily broken the person's neck. More evidence as that is coming out is the FBI logged a piece of fabric that didn't match the marks on his neck. There was another one in the photos of the cell in the corner that was completely overlooked. This may have been the real murder weapon, suicide weapon. So the great autopsy mystery, it might come down to, is the jail and the people in charge of this so sloppy that they could not even bag the evidence right? Every thread that I pulled on, every time I dove into it a little bit further, to me, it came off like murder. The more complicated it got, the more I pulled at this thread, uh, the more it came off like murder. Not disproven, complicated. I think the more we look into this as a society, the more that we could delve into this with the higher ups and actually have an honest conversation. I don't want to be looking back like we did for the JFK assassination, and we're getting information 60 years later and they're still covering up information. This can't be how it works. There has to be transparency with the government and with its people and back and forth. We have to be transparent with the government. The government should have to be transparent with us. And I don't expect everything, but for this high profile of a case, for this many people with this much power to be on that list at that island and it just be overlooked, this person commits suicide in a jail cell, which has happened in the past, but with the cameras not working, with the guards not doing their job, with the pathologist questioning this, we have to also start to question this as a society. If you're still with me, and I hope you are, here's your turn. Let's talk about it. Comment. Tell me what you think. Tell me how you read it. And even reading the same article from two different perspectives, we're going to get two different answers. We're going to see these things differently. And until we can understand each other, we're all going to be at a loss. Like and subscribe. This is what I want the channel to be. Not screaming, not picking a team, just cold, hard truth and doing our best to find the answers and move our society and culture forward. I'm here to help fix the problem.